Dominica, like most of the Caribbean islands, product of the British, had great mentors through our colonial forebears. They gave us good training. Even at school, I remember in my era, we had to have our papers corrected by Oxford and Cambridge University. Nowadays, you can go to the Jamaica University in Barbados. Back then, we didn't have that. But what we had was good mentorship. Our Cadet Corps evolved as part of the extracurricular activities for schools. And as you have well said earlier on, the grammar school has an over 100 years. So did Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Lucia, Grenada, all had cadet corps, all with the objective of giving the youth something to do, formative things to do, so that when they grow up and go out, they could be challenging anywhere else. And for those of you who have moved from the Caribbean islands to go overseas, you know what I'm talking about. The training we had in the islands has made us so superior to some of our international friends, and I dare say in America, Canada. That's why we were able to move in and outshine them, because we learned things that prepared us for life. When I got into school, grammar school, I was attracted to the Cadet Corps. I didn't quite like Boy Scouts, and that was my vision. Actually, my template was to become a military soldier. I wanted to be an officer. That's why I took the Cadet Corps so seriously. And we all have our stories of how you were neglected, you were overlooked, you were bypassed, and finally you got your opportunity. But I took the Cadet Corps seriously to the extent that in my final year in 1958, after I graduated, because of the fact that I wanted to pursue a military career, the cadet camp was going to be in Barbados in spring of 1959, a year later. I actually requested the headmaster to allow me to register for the year in 1959, although I'd already graduated out of the fifth form, simply so that I can attend school to be able to go to the cadet camp in Barbados. And the reason for that was because the West India Regiment was just being formed in its early stages, and they were seeking for young officers and soldiers from the islands to move to Jamaica. Lo and behold, I went to the camp in Barbados. It was not my first, because we had been to camps before, but I was being, well, how do you say, scouted, looked after, zeroed in on as one of the potential officers for the Jamaica or West India Regiment, as it was known then. Here's a little known story. I was rejected. Top-notch cadet, company sergeant major, rejected. But I'll never forget the final day of the camp when Colonel Maskell from the Jamaica West India Regiment, who had come down to the chief recruiting officer, he called me upstairs where we were overlooking, that is from the Barbados Regiment headquarters, and we were looking at the parade ground. And he says, "Young man, I want to tell you something. You are an excellent cadet. And I think we owe it to you to tell you why you were rejected." And at that time, another colleague of mine from Dominica, his name was George James, deceased, he was demised in the Carnival fire, was marching across the ground. Very nice 6-foot boy, good in stature. And Colonel Maskell says to me, "You see that young man down there? If he had your military prowess, he would have been selected. And if you had his physical stature, you had been selected." But you know why? Back then, things were not politically correct. And there were rules in the military that you had to be a certain height and certain weight. And because they had recruited over 100 soldiers from the islands who were 6-footers, they wanted the first batch of officers to match. Can you imagine my disappointment? Because I wanted to be a soldier. I returned to Dominica, and because of my love for cadets, the headmaster, U.G. Crick, was approached by the students and says, you know, sir, this is one of the best officers we had. Could you please appoint him or get him appointed to be running the Cadet Corps? It was the first time in the history of Dominica that they appointed a non-faculty member, somebody who was not a member of the staff, to run the Cadet Corps. But thanks to the training I had from people like Cecil Goodrich, Captain Goodrich, and A.V. Grell, I was there. Now, that's where it begins. Because I wanted to bring everything I could to treat and train the young men that would come under my administration how to become men. I used to describe them as men for tomorrow.
I'm thankful and honored that even in the amber of my years, I've not been forgotten. It's been a tremendous pleasure nurturing, raising, and training all you guys. You've made me proud today. I just wish there were many more to be right here to witness this, but I know they'll hear about it. Thank you, Gabriel, for everything you've done. Thank you for being my friend, my protege, and my best student ever.
Major, I am here on behalf of all the cadets who would like to be here today and who are not, including your other protege, Major Francis Richards. I was sworn to secrecy. I know had he known he would be here today, but on behalf of Rebuild Dominica, its President Ladana Drago, its Board of Directors, its supporters, and a grateful Dominican nation, in particular that segment of the nation that remembers your work with the Dominica Defense Force, your work with the Dominica Cadet Corps, your work at the Londonderry, the legendary Londonderry Youth Camp. All of these organizations, in particular the Cadet Corps and Youth Camp, nurtured, because we were students then or young adults, the best in us in way of military discipline, character, industry, patriotism, and in the vocational arts at Londonderry, electrical engineering, masonry, carpentry, animal husbandry, agriculture. Thank you, sir. A warm salute and our eternal gratitude for all that you did to be a nation builder and to make Dominica a better place, and also for the Rotary Club and the civic duty that you exhibited here in the United States. When you came to the United States, you did not rest. You continued to be entrepreneurial, innovative, civic-minded, engaged in volunteerism. May God bless you all your days, and your beautiful wife, Heather, and your illustrious family. Thank you. God bless you.